Today marks Canadian Infertility Awareness Day. It's an issue that affects 1 in 6 couples. Our very own Melanie Ng has dealt with infertility herself and joins us alongside today's parent, editor-in-chief, Sasha, Emmons. Good morning.
Good morning.
So where do we begin? Melanie, first of all, thank you so much for being so forthcoming, because I know it was so difficult for you behind the scenes. It's something you didn't like to talk about, rightfully so, and it was a struggle that went on for how many years?
It went on for 3.5 and then heading into 4 years. And the thing is that, yeah, I was very quiet with it, but now I know I probably should have talked more about it. It would have helped me. So, you know, this is why we're doing this conversation now, is for people to realize they're not alone. And we should talk about it, because even if people don't have the right thing to say, it'll help to get it out there.
Yeah, and people often think, Sasha, this has to do with age. Yes, that is one component, but there are several. 50% of the reasons behind the infertility in a couple has to do with the male.
Yeah, 40 to 50%. It's the problem is on the male side. So age does have a lot to do with it, but there are plenty of people that try to conceive in their 20s or their early 30s when you think you'd have no problem, and then they find that there is a problem.
You shared your story with secondary infertility. What does that mean?
Right. So I had my first without a major issue. Maybe took a little longer than was normal to conceive. And then 2 years later, I went to try again, and it just wasn't happening. And secondary infertility is it's crazy making, because you feel like, hey, I've done this before. I know my body can do this, and yet it's not happening. And I think that comment that people often make, that which you probably got too, oh, just relax and let it happen.
Worst thing to say.
Yeah, it's people really mean well, but it's a really tough thing to hear, especially when you're dealing with secondary infertility, because you're like, am I not relaxing? Am I causing the problem here?
Why isn't it working this time?
Yeah.
And Mel, you also said, you know, tons of our viewers were writing in all the time throughout those 4 years, and again, they meant well, and they'd say, do we see something?
Well, that's the thing, and you get it all the time too. And you know, you pretend this top that I'm wearing. It's a looser fitting top because it can't fit in my other stuff. But amazing. Thank you. But it's you know, someone would say, total, just being nice. Is there a secret you want to share? And every time, it felt like a little dagger every single time, because meanwhile, behind the scenes, you know, you're going to treatments before coming to work. You're going to appointments after being on air. And it's a constant reminder. So you're already battling with yourself, with your family, with your inner circle, and then you're sort of dealing with it on the public front and having to put up this face. You know, I'd come to work and smile when the last thing I wanted to do was smile.
Yeah, you were feeling so stressed out. You're being poked, you're being prodded, and you went through so many cycles that you thought, is it going to happen? You don't want to get your hopes up.
Yeah.
And I know that Scott, he was so brilliant in the Today's Parent videos that you shot. He very much wanted to take part and speak also, because it affects you so much as a couple. The stress is huge.
It does. And, you know, for us, it really puts a strain on your relationship, because you start being very optimistic. This is going to happen. And when you hear no so many different times, you give up. And we stopped talking to each other. But it was the elephant in the room, because I'd look in his eyes and just feel, I can't give you this baby. And I couldn't look at him without getting emotional. And so he said to me, we need to do this. I want to be able to speak from the male perspective with Today's Parent, because so many guys aren't heard on this issue. And for a man, how can they support a woman that's going through this? Because they're not the ones being poked and prodded. So what do you do as a man? And sometimes it's hard for them to find the right thing to say, but just being there and being supportive is so key.
What advice would you both give to couples who are struggling right now, and to people who mean well but don't know what to say or do?
I think the best thing that you can do is just try to listen. I mean, I don't want to discourage people from asking their loved ones about it, because we do want to encourage conversation. It can be easy to say the wrong thing, but I think the best thing that you can just say is, you know, what's going on and how can I help? And then just listen. You know, don't try to tell them that, you know, if it meant to be, it will happen. Don't say that. Don't tell them to relax. Don't say, at least you can adopt. Maybe they will end up adopting, but there is, for a lot of people, there's some grieving that they have to get through first, of the idea of not having a biological child before they get to adoption. It's really easy to say, much harder to wrap your head around if you're actually in that situation.
Well, maybe it's not a viable option. Maybe they're tapped out of the resources. This is very expensive to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even an option to be able to do, you know, the 1 or 2 rounds, because it is so expensive.
Right.
So there's so many struggles. Thank you for sharing yours. It's touching a lot of people. I know, Melanie, you're already getting huge feedback.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys check it out. It's the May issue of Today's Parent. It's on newsstands now, as well as Texture by next issue. Plus, Sasha and Mel are continuing this discussion, and they want you to join in just go to our Facebook mentions right now, and you can take part by logging onto today's parent Facebook page, the BT Facebook page, or at bttoronto.ca/extra. And we're so lucky because little baby Josh is sleeping, so Mama can continue working right after this.
Grandma, yeah.
It's so good to see you, Melanie. I know you'll be back, but enjoy your maternity leave and
Thank
no
you.
rush. Whenever you're ready, okay? Thank you, Sasha.